Hello, welcome to Sylph Uncensored. I am Sylph, and that over there is Matt.
Hello.
Today we've got a someone who I actually used to like. It's Russell Brand. I used to like him when he was an actor before he went all MAGA, and I've just been so utterly disappointed in Russell Brand. So this is going to be interesting. He's talking about Ron DeSantis basically saying you have the right to run over protesters with your car. So,
Yeah.
Horrifying. And yeah. Oh, hold on a second. I need to select a different window. All right. Are you ready, Matt?
Yep, let's do it.
All right, here we go.
And we also have a policy that if you're driving on one of those streets and a mob comes
Uh-oh. Hold on, audio issues. I'm going to feed this over to Matt real quick.
and surrounds your vehicle and threatens you, you have a right to flee for your safety. And so if you drive off and you hit one of these people, that's their fault for impinging on you. You don't have to sit there and just be a sitting duck and let the mob grab you out of your car and drag you through the streets.
Yay.
You have a right to defend yourself in Florida.
All right, so this clip is going bananas viral right now. Russell, I mean, my take is obviously that. If imagine you're a woman, you've got two kids in car seats in the back, and you're just trying to get home, or you're going to the hospital, or it's an ambulance, or whatever. You're literally doing whatever.
What was interesting is that I couldn't hear what was being said, but I could read the subtitles that they had up. And he's trying to say that, if you're scared, if the mob is coming after you and you're in a car, you can drive off. And maybe if you accidentally hit somebody, it'll be fine. We won't charge you for that. And that's not what the law really, allows that, but that's not really why they made the law. They made the law so if any protesters are in the street, they can just run you over.
Yeah, it's specifically like if a protester is just kind of there, in the street, you can just plow on right through them just because they're in the street. Whereas California has made it not a crime to jaywalk, which is nice. You're still not supposed to, but it's not a crime now.
Right.
I think it's an infraction.
It's a common tactic in California for these protesters to get out into big highways and streets and block them and snarl up traffic, because the whole point is to be annoying and slow stuff down.
Like, protests don't work if no one pays attention to them, right? And the best way to make someone pay attention to you is to inconvenience them.
Yeah.
So also the fact that in this situation, one person is driving a multi-ton metal vehicle, and the other person is just standing out in the open. And we have this notion of the person behind the wheel of essentially a deadly weapon should be able to just, harm this other person because they're slightly annoyed.
Yeah.
It's disgusting to me.
Yep.
People illegally take over the streets, and they have Molotov cocktails and masks and everything else. What would you?
Where do they have Molotov cocktails? The protests don't have that. What the hell is he talking about?
I think you might be talking about the police.
Well, even the police don't have Molotov cocktails. They have
tear gas.
They have flashbangs and
they have grenades,
tear gas, and rubber bullets.
Yep. Yeah. Rubber bullets, which surprisingly enough aren't damage free.
Yeah.
There's a reason they are people fired out of a gun.
Yep.
It's not like getting hit with an airsoft gun. Even with an airsoft gun, you need to wear eye protection, and these cops are firing rubber bullets at people without eye protection. So blindings are pretty common. So the cops, just don't like you protesting, so they can fucking blind you.
Yep.
Yeah. So fucked up. And now, it's not just the cops that are gonna, attack and hurt you. It's also other other people, like other citizens driving their cars, are now like gonna run you over.
Yep.
You picked a great state to live in, Matt.
Yeah, such a great state. So happy.
Allowed to do what you got to do. Of course, the media, Newsweek is already framing this that he's telling people to drive through protesters. That's not what he said. It's if you're illegally taking over the road, you don't just drive through a park and kill people. So we get that the media lies about everything, but what would you want?
So he kind of gave it away there, but he's saying that they're not people. The media is trying to claim that you can just drive into protesters. That's not what the media is claiming. The media is claiming if there's protesters in the streets, you can run them over, and that's just what he said.
Yeah.
Like
the media is claiming that you can just shoot children in the face. It's like, no, that's not what the media is claiming. You can't just put words in the media's mouth. Yeah. I'm sure like someone somewhere said, yeah, you can drive over protesters in Florida.
Right.
But like, that's not what the media, in the sense of like the consensus of the media, has been saying.
Well, that's why he says the media instead of saying, MSNBC says this, or, a particular reporter is saying that. That's because he can just make these broad statements and attribute it to the media without actually showing any proof.
Yep.
And really, like what do you do?
I'm telling you, mate, like one of the moments where I suppose I had to recognize that my presumed alliances with people that would once have been called with the left were being questioned and possibly even abandoned was when in my country, Extinction Rebellion, whose goals and targets I would of course agree with, I do believe that fossil fuel companies and energy companies have favorable and cozy relationships with government and are probably undoubtedly irresponsible in the way that they conduct their business when it comes to respect and love for our planet, that they cut corners, that they denigrate and relegate. But I'm telling you, when they started doing protests in the UK where they blocked off roads, and I saw in general working class people who are trying to get to work go, listen, get out of my way or I'm going to run you over. There's some sort of, I don't know if it's class consciousness or where I'm from.
So like this is kind of an appropriate protest for what they're doing, is they're trying to, stop fossil fuel use, and they're getting in the way of cars. So that kind of makes sense.
Again, it's like the alternative to something like this is a protest that does not inconvenience anyone and is therefore essentially meaningless.
Yeah.
Like protests should be visible.
Right. And
I don't think that like blocking traffic is an egregious offense.
Right.
No one is being harmed in this scenario. Like at best, you're going to make someone late.
Yeah. And I mean, it sucks that it's coming down on, working class people, but
yeah,
I mean, that happens all the time.
But, if you go and protest specifically at like, some rich CEO's house, he'll just have you shot.
Yeah.
So,
pretty much.
But my natural affinity is with, like, if your mode of protest annoys people that you need to have on board with you, that you need to align with you, then you're off track, man. And it's like,
no. You are exactly on track. Like that is how you get those people's attention, right? Like if those people, the exact people that you want on your side, do not hear about your protest at all, they're never going to be on your side.
Right.
So like going out and being in their way and getting your message to them is effective. I'm not going to say it's the best way, but it is an effective way to have them hear your message. And then if they're not a complete piece of shit, they're not going to say like, oh, well, he blocked my way to work one day, so like I can't side with him, even though like he wants to, I don't know, protect children from cancer beams.
Yeah.
Like no one's going to be pro cancer beaming children just because they're a little pissed off one day.
Yeah.
Maybe some people are, but fuck those people.
It's like that you can't have the presumptuousness and the haughtiness of like, well, you'll thank me one day because I'm saving the planet. If you knew what I knew, then you'd agree with what I'm doing. And I'm telling you, like, I suppose it's a conversational device that you're deploying today, and maybe it's part of your more general style, Dave. But like, yeah, if my wife told me there was people and she's felt threatened, I'd say, put your foot down. Like, and the same with
That's the thing, though, is like, how do you define like feeling threatened?
Right.
If you, let's say you're a white person sitting in a car surrounded by black protesters and you are a fucking racist, you're probably going to feel threatened, right?
Yep.
Should you now be allowed to just run over black protesters because you are a racist piece of shit who feels threatened just because there are black people around?
Yeah.
I would say no.
So-
I don't want to live in a society like that.
Yeah, I mean, that's like one of the big complaints about, in Florida, we have the stand your ground law. And it's like, I believe part of it, I'm not a lawyer, but part of it was like, if you feel threatened, you can, pull out a gun and shoot somebody. And it's like, well, that just means you can shoot anybody because you can just claim that you feel threatened.
Right. And it's even sillier. The case with George Zimmerman specifically, that guy followed that kid. What was his name?
I don't remember. And that's really sad.
Yeah. Fuck. I want to say Trayvon Martin, but that might be a different case.
Yeah.
Anyway, he followed that kid and made the kid feel, I'm saying kid, even though like this was an adult man. He followed this man and made him feel in danger of his life, right?
Yeah.
So he then started attacking George Zimmerman.
Right.
Which, according to the law in Florida, should be allowed, right? He was being stalked.
Yep.
So he was standing his ground, being a good, responsible citizen, standing his ground.
Yep.
But then George Zimmerman felt threatened.
Right.
Because he was being attacked. Rightfully so, but he was still being attacked. So now George Zimmerman uses deadly force and kills the guy.
Yep.
And in that case, regardless of who came out alive, they would be like the good one according to Florida's stupid ass law.
Yep.
Even though very clearly George Zimmerman was the problem here. He instigated the fight, right?
Yep.
And then he was the one who escaped with his life. And now he gets to go free just because the laws in Florida are really fucking stupid.
Yes, they are.
Yep.
When I'm like, say when I have to walk through paparazzi, well, like with my friends, I'm like, listen, if they're in your way, we don't need to be aggressive, but just walk in a straight line. We're walking in a straight line. Like if people put themselves in
He's
Also-
saying we don't need to be aggressive, but like now imagine you have a weapon in your hand. Would you still just walk in a straight line even though there was a person in front of you?
Yeah.
Like, would that be okay? Like if I have a chainsaw, a running chainsaw in my hand, should I be allowed to just walk through people, murdering them?
Right.
No, I don't think Russell would agree with that.
Right.
But like he's not seeing here that one person in this situation has so much more power because they're operating a deadly weapon.
Yep.
So they
Also-
should be the one with more responsibility in this situation.
Yeah. Also, Russell Brand is like, takes the longest time to answer a question.
Yep.
in the trajectory, then they're going to feel that, immovable object, irresistible force. And like, and if it, like you bring family into
That's the thing, though. In this situation, it's not immovable object, irresistible force. It's a fucking car against a human body.
Yeah. Yep.
A car is like, what would you say the lightest car is? Like 1,000 pounds?
Probably.
Yeah, 1,000 pounds. And the average person is like, what, 150 pounds? And the car is made
Yeah.
of metal and glass, and the human is made
Yeah.
of flesh and bone.
Right.
One is very clearly going to win in this case, always.
Yep.
No human being will ever overpower a fucking car.
Right.
Like you cannot. You cannot overpower a car.
Yeah.
Maybe if the car's like engine were dying, but in this case, it's like just a functional car. No human being will ever overpower that. So like, what the fuck is he talking about? This is not an immovable object here. The human will very much be moved in this situation and will be probably very injured.
Yep.
To it, then the issue becomes: do you go? How do you restrain it? I think that is an example of common sense governance. But
it's very much not common sense. If you are annoying me, if I'm being inconvenienced by you, that shouldn't give me the right to kill you.
Yep.
Like, I just hard disagree with Russell on this. I do not think that gives you the right to kill someone.
Yeah.
In our podcast, Dave, where we're going to have to get to is like, where do we take on board, as I recognize you tried to in the example of a woman who...
And I will say, like, there are certain circumstances where I do think someone is justified to use a car as a deadly weapon, even in a protest scenario, if they are, like, being physically attacked by the protesters. If the protesters are coming at them with, like, bats, and they're bashing the car, and the person actually does feel like justifiably threatened, then sure, try to escape the scenario by driving your car. But that's not what this law is talking about. This law is talking about just if you feel threatened at all, justifiably or not.
Yep.
All you got to say is like, oh, well, I felt threatened. They gave me dirty looks.
Yeah.
And then you can just fucking plow right through them.
Yeah. But comment on what you previously said about being annoying or being annoyed gives you the right to kill somebody. If that was the case, like, I would have been killed so many times before. I've annoyed so many people.
Hold on, I got to do a ban really quick.
Oh.
Here, I'm going to start this up.
Legally, but it's paying taxes and contributing. Well, how are we gonna somehow stop this being endless, recycled, incessant conflict?
Well, that's also why it's so dangerous what they've done about lying about Trump for 10 years. Because Trump actually is not the Hitlerian authoritarian that they want him to be. But
wait,
so
what?
treat him that way. So
That's exactly what he's doing right now.
That comes after Trump could be much worse, because he'll be like, look, Trump was this New York City business guy who didn't really care about the gays, and he actually doesn't really care about abortion, and that's pretty obvious. And like a whole series of other things.
I mean, Trump doesn't care about abortion in the sense that, like, he has no actual opinion on it, but, like, he knows that it gets him supporters, so he fights to ban abortion. Like, he is the reason Roe got overturned.
Yep.
So
exactly
what Dave Rubin is saying here is just wrong.
Yes.
Like, technically it's correct, but in spirit, it is completely wrong.
Yeah.
Certainly not like the perfect Christian or anything else.
Not the perfect Christian. He's like not even Christian. He called the book 2 Corinthians. He could not name a single verse in the Bible.
Yeah, and he seems to be trying to break every single commandment.
Right? Like, before I even knew anything about Christianity, I knew John 3:16, and like, Trump couldn't even name that.
Yeah.
They're going to go, well, look, they still tried to kill him and jail him. And
I probably couldn't say it verbatim, but, it's like, for God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten son that they shall have everlasting life or something. But like, I'm not even a Christian and I know that. Trump is supposed to be a Christian and he doesn't even know that one. The famous one. The one that people hold signs up at sporting events.
Yeah.
Impeach him and blah, blah, blah. So I'm just going to say, F all that and let's roll. So that's also the danger when you just make up the boogeyman out of someone that Trump, if they would have it's Trump, man. All you
he was what they were just making boogeymen out of protesters.
Yeah, right. Literal like protesters just standing in the street.
Yeah. So they're like completely lacking in self-awareness.
Of course. Yep.
Yeah.
Bend over backwards to accommodate you. So that's why it's so dangerous what they've done. But it was such a perfect example talking to DeSantis yesterday, why I'm so proud to live here. Why even just in the last couple of days, I called, I've become friendly with him, but I called my local police chief here and I said, hey, you know, things are obviously getting a little bit weird. You know, could we get could you guys, because I see the cops around here often and they're doing a great job. I was like, you know, just once or twice a day, could you just drive by? And they immediately put me on the rotation, and I tried to know all their names. And that gets to the local thing that you're always talking about. Like, get involved with your.
So you know, the sad thing. So Dave Rubin has a husband, and he has a child. I think maybe 2 children.
I don't know.
You know, he and his husband they have a child together, and they're raising this child. And he is supporting a party that, if they get their way, and they're certainly going to try, if they get their way, Dave's child will be taken away from him and his marriage will be annulled.
Yeah.
You know, that is what the Republicans want. And Dave doesn't see it. And it's so sad to see him supporting this party that would take away his own rights.
Yeah.
You know, like people say, people on the right have a tendency to say that, like, it's this zero-sum game, and if you support DEI initiatives, you're hurting white people. And I am white people. Well, at least I'm one of them.
Right.
So I support DEI initiatives because, first of all, I don't think it's a zero-sum game. But even if it was, even if by supporting DEI initiatives I was hurting myself, I'd still do it because it's fair. And I believe in fairness. I believe in fairness and equity. And if you are dealt a bad hand because of past government policies that hurt people who looked like you should be helped up.
Yeah.
Right? My people that looked like me were never dealt a bad hand, you know? From the beginning in America, people who look like me could get ahead just based on how they looked.
Yeah.
So in that sense, like, even if the Republicans were right, like, I think it's morally imperative for someone like me to support DEI initiatives. And then you've got Dave Rubin, where, like, he actually is supporting a party that wants to take his own rights away.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Your community, because at the end of the day, everyone's got something that they're pissed about, that they want to take over a road or throw a rock over an overpass. But once you say it's okay, these people, you know, it's
No one's saying it's okay to throw a rock over an overpass. That is not the same thing.
Right.
He just said
It's different. That's something that was happening,
things.
though. But yeah.
Okay, but he just said 2 completely different things. Stand in a road versus throw a rock over an overpass.
Yep.
One is very clearly not okay because you could hurt someone. The other is mildly annoying at worst.
Yeah. Yeah.
pretty.
Also, I want to point out that earlier he said, you know, he had the sheriff send guys by his house and was like, do you think the call was something like, oh, hey, I'm a rich guy who just moved to your area. Can you send some guys by my house every once in a while?
Yeah,
so I feel safe.
I'm a rich conservative influencer. Come protect
That's
me.
right.
Shit. Once you say it's okay for them, everyone will do it. And then the last thing I'll say is, just imagine if it was the other way, Russell. Imagine if a bunch of people in red hats were throwing rocks over overpasses right now. What do you?
No one is saying that that's okay. But I do think if a bunch of people in red hats, you know, MAGA protesters, were in the road, nobody should run them over.
Right.
If they're throwing rocks, still no one should run them over, but the cops should stop them from throwing rocks.
Yep.
But like, I don't think people should be ran over for protesting. Run over?
Yeah.
I don't think people should be run over for protesting.
Yeah. I think he's specifically referencing there was some of the protests against ICE raids recently that people were on overpass throwing rocks at the police and ICE that were down in the road. They weren't throwing it at regular people.
Okay.
I don't know what happened with that.
Still
I
not
assume the cops
okay,
went around and stopped
but-
them, but like,
Still not okay, but yeah, that context does make it a little different.
yeah, yeah. And if people in red hats were doing it, exactly the same thing would happen.
Yeah, and I
It's
would
fine.
say still not okay.
Still not
Uh,
okay. Cops will still go stop them.
Yeah, so
The difference is they might not get arrested.
yeah. So, yeah, Dave, imagine it's the exact opposite. Imagine MAGA protesters are in the streets. Should they be run over by liberals in cars?
Right.
I think we would agree they shouldn't, Dave Rubin. So why can't you agree that liberal protesters shouldn't be run over by conservatives in cars?
Yeah.
Do you think they would be saying on MSNBC 13?
I don't understand where these divisions of power are. I don't understand how there is still so much willingness or resources to frame favorably civil disturbances, because I'm almost surprised that they've not bent to the way that the flow of power is going out of simple economic imperatives. It makes me wonder if there's something beyond the kind of facile objectives that I normally attribute to these institutions. They just want power, they just want money. Seems like there is something more peculiar.
Right.
So isn't actual friends? Isn't Russell Brand like isn't he fighting off a bunch of allegations of sexual abuse or something?
He is, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we probably shouldn't go into that because I believe as of right now they're still just allegations.
Okay. So allegations. Okay.
As much as it probably would make sense for them to be true, considering like how shitty of a person he's acting right now.
It's just allegedly now.
Yeah,
allegedly.
still it's alleged.
Yeah.
Anyway, so like I cannot possibly understand why Dave Rubin doesn't see the issue here. That if
Right.
someone is just in the road protesting, you shouldn't be able to murder them.
Correct.
Like, I can't believe that he and I can't agree on that.
Yeah. Seems like something pretty simple to agree on.
Right? It seems like just mind-boggling that he would think that, no, it is okay to just murder people in the road just because they're annoying.
Yeah.
What is the alternative? Being late to work?
Right. Oh, no.
How could someone expect me to be late to work instead of just murdering 10 people?
Yeah. What's up with that? And besides,
what if everyone was required to not murder people? Then we'd have people like we could have like 100 people late to work.
Right. That'd be terrible.
That would be lawlessness, chaos, anarchy.
Yeah. Yeah.
So no, we should absolutely blood in the streets, run over 1,000 protesters so that 100 people can get to work on time.
Right. Exactly. Also,
Yeah, like
doesn't
do they not see that that's their argument here?
yeah, pretty much.
And how fucking
I don't know.
ridiculous that sounds when you put it into like real words.
Yeah. Well, what I think is even more ridiculous is doesn't Dave Rubin like work from basically his home, like office home? So he doesn't have.
I don't know.
He doesn't have to drive anywhere to get to work.
He's probably just driving around looking for protesters because he wants to run someone over.
I'm late for work.
I'm late to be right over there on the other side of you, so I'm just going to run you over real quick.
Right.
Anyway, that video was really unsettling, the way they were talking about that and framing that, because it's like they're talking about
Yeah.
human life. They're talking about like destroying human life because you're inconvenienced.
Yep.
Which is just disgusting to me. And if that's your side of politics, that you don't value life enough that you can't stand being late to work or just being mildly annoyed on the way to, your movie, I'm going to miss the fucking previews.
Right.
I got to murder these people because I'm going to miss the previews. If that's your side of politics, you have no right to ever call yourself pro-life.
Yeah.
You know, you absolutely are not. You are very anti-life.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I get my blood's starting to boil. All right, we should end it here though. So we'll see anyone live over on the other side for Self-Redacted. And if you're listening on YouTube, thanks for checking us out. And if you want to support us, you can check out our other shows at echoplexmedia.com. You can support us at patreon.com/echoplex and eplex.store. And you can also check out Sylph-specific merch at icecreamonahotdog.com. So check that out. I've got some very silly stuff up there. I just have a new idea in my brain that I'm about to put down into Inkscape so I can put it up on a t-shirt. Check it out. It'll be very funny. Maybe it'll be funny. I don't know. It's like I want to do a t-shirt that looks like it has mustard and ketchup stains on it.
Okay.
Don't know why. I just want that to exist.
Okay.
Then if you actually spill mustard or ketchup on your shirt, you can be like, oh, yeah, it's just part of the design.
Yeah, it's part of it.
Yeah, you don't even have to wipe it off. You can just leave it on there.
Yeah. When are we going to get the infinite cheese grater?
Yes, I need to do that one too. Infinite cheese grater. But yeah, check out that. Don't forget to like the channel and subscribe to the video. I almost said it the correct way. But yeah, thank you for checking us out, and we'll see you next time.